Lumos. That's way better. Welcome, wizards and other assorted, lesser classes. We're here today because the VR August Developer Roundtable had lots of new information about our favorite elemental fireball casting class, the Wizard. The Pantheon website describes the Wizard as one who obsessively studies the enigmatic and destructive nature of the arcane. The Wizard's job is to do damage, lots and lots of damage. It uses both mana and a special resource called Focus to erase mobs off the battlefield. Now, I'm not going to waste time by covering ground we've already covered. In 2020, Munch did a great recap video about the Wizard detailing all the spells and abilities. In 2021, Therek actually got to play and record Wizard gameplay for us to see in Fortress Dev. And this year, in February, Therek made another Wizard video giving us updates from the Pantheon newsletter. That gets us to where we are now. If you haven't watched those videos, I suggest you do so. The links are below. So let's take a look at what Tehom has for us that's new. Focus now reduces mana cost. Focus is a wizard resource that is gained by casting a specific spell type. The more times you cast a specific type of wizard spell, the more damage it does, and now the less mana the skill costs. This sounds like a win-win for the wizard. More damage? Good. Less mana? Good. Next, Tehom tells us about how spell weaving is now enabled and rewarded. When I think about weaving, when I talk about an MMO, I think about the EverQuest Bard. That mind-numbingly tedious carpal tunnel task of keeping 5 songs up at one time. I hope that's not what we're talking about here. I think a better idea of spell weaving is strategically alternating between the different spell lines to get maximum effect. That's probably what they're going for. Third, Tehom talks about how the Wizard has strengthened its glass cannon fantasy. A glass cannon, for those who may not know, is the idea of a class that can take very little damage, like glass, but does a ton of damage, like a cannon. Evidently, Tehom has been watching the MMO 101, because I have been railing on the fact that wizards need to be glass cannons since we started doing it. Thankfully, it looks like VR has got this one for the wizard right. Last but not least, Tehom talks about how the wizard's spellcasting identities have been reinforced. Fire being longer cast times and more damage, Ice being a mid-range option, and Shock being the shortest cast time of all. Well, there's a lot to unpack here, and a lot of questions that we just don't know the answers to. First, did Tehom just announce the 4th casting type for the wizard? No one has ever said anything about Shock before this. Also, no mention of the previous arcane line. Is that being changed for something else more elemental? These are the questions on my mind, and we'll probably have to wait for pre-alpha in September to find out. In addition to the overall changes of the wizard class, we also got to see some new spells. Cold Snap is an instant burst of magic, frost-based, off your skill evocation that deals moderate damage. Pretty standard spell, except that it has a 30-second cooldown. Instant cast is nice, but that's a lot of cooldown to be one of the 8 spells on my limited action bar. Ice Lance is a spell that I already love. I know it's a nice spell, and I know I'm a fire wizard, but there's just so much to love here. It's got a 9-second recast time, and it can hit multiple targets. I see a lot of potential for using this spell to kite mobs around. It looks great overall. Focus Fire is a spell that uses the wizard's unique mechanic, Focus. If you've been weaving your spells, and you have a bunch of foci powered up, you can release a devastating spell using all your foci for heavy damage. It's an instant cast spell, and has some very interesting possibilities, although it is on a long cooldown, 1 minute. Refocus sounds like a spell that will be on almost every wizard's spellcasting bar. Consuming all the focus the wizard is built up, it restores 5% of your total mana for each foci consumed. So, depending on how many foci you had up and that you were weaving, this could be a big fight game changer. As it is a really powerful ability, it is balanced by having a super long cooldown of 2 minutes. Spell Reflection puts a ward around your target, causing the next spell to reflect back on the caster. I'm so glad they included a defensive spell as part of the list. Wizards almost never get any defensive spells, And I know that wizards are mostly an offensive class, but just like a little bit of utility and a little bit of defensive spells is just makes the class really come alive. It's got a big cooldown of 2 minutes, but man, I think if you pull this off on a caster in the middle of a battle, it's going to be huge. All in all, I love the direction that Pantheon is going with the spells and the wizard in general. I could see myself having some very hard choices ahead of me as to which spells I want to have active and which spells I have to leave behind. Also, given the fact that the wizard has 4 different spell lines, each with their own identity, I think that this is going to make the wizard an extremely versatile DPS class, able to do damage no matter where you are and what adventure lies ahead. So what do you think about the wizard class? Are you excited to play the wizard class in Pantheon Rise of the Fallen? Make sure you leave me some comments below. I'm excited to get to know some of my other fellow wizards. Have a great day. Draq Attack out.